You're listening to the Vibrant Vision Podcast, a podcast designed to help you get clarity, increase your confidence, and cultivate the most important connections so you can have the impact you were created to make. I'm your host, Amanda Kerrigan. Now let's get to making that vibrant vision a reality. Hello and welcome to episode 20 of the Vibrant Vision Podcast, and we're continuing on in our series on procrastination. I've heard from so many people that say, oh my gosh, I'm such a procrastinator. Like, this is exactly what I needed, especially in the second quarter of 2022. Maybe you've procrastinated on your goals and you just don't know where to start. And so if that's you, you might be wondering, like, why am I doing this? Why do I keep procrastinating? What is wrong with me? Let me assure you, there's nothing wrong with you. We all procrastinate. I procrastinate more than I'd like to admit, but there is something we can do about it. And that's what we're going to be talking about in this podcast is what procrastination costs you and then what you can do about it. So a few years ago, I had a client, we'll call her Samantha, and Samantha had a huge home project she wanted to work on. This was before I started doing confidence coaching. I was doing a little bit more general coaching, and I was talking to her about this project. So we coached around it. It was the one thing she brought to her coaching sessions week after week after week. She's like, I don't know what's wrong with me, but I cannot get this done. We brainstormed, we asked questions, we dug deep. Why is this project important to you? What would it mean to have it done? And she came up with several strategies that she was excited initially in our coaching sessions to implement. She was super excited. She's like, yes, I'm going to do this. It's going to be amazing. And then we come back after she had chosen her action steps. She'd gone off to implement those. And we come back the next week and she's like, yeah, that didn't happen. And she came back discouraged and disappointed and disillusioned with her life because she wasn't doing what she said she wanted to do. When I asked Samantha what this was costing her, she came up with a lot of different things in her life. And some of those things are things that we're going to talk about in our podcast because every bit of procrastination has a ripple effect. The good news is that this story has a happy ending. Samantha decided that procrastination was costing her more than this project was even worth to her. And so she just decided to incorporate some help and get some people on board with her. And she got that project knocked out in a weekend. It was amazing. And I'm hoping that this episode will do the same for you. Because Samantha isn't my only client who procrastinates. Procrastination is another huge confidence killer. And as a matter of fact, my friends, my family, myself, we all procrastinate. And most of us know that procrastination is not helpful in most circumstances. Now, let me be clear before we jump into the meat of this episode that intentionally delaying a decision or an action so that you can focus on something else in your life is not procrastination. It's wisdom. So when my coworker was getting ready to apply for a job she was super excited about, it had finally come open. She wanted this promotion. And her husband and her had also been trying for a long time for a baby. And they both happened at once. And it was really hard on her, but she decided because the promotion would take a lot of her time and her energy that her baby was most important. She ended up getting the promotion after she had completed maternity leave. The person they had hired didn't work out. And so it worked out for her, but it was a really hard decision. But it was not procrastination. It was wisdom. She made an effective decision to be the best mom she could. So what does procrastination cost us? Well, like Samantha, procrastination costs us the person we want to be. Nobody wants to be a procrastinator. And this happened to me several years ago. I had completed my coaching classes in 2016, had been working as a coach, had a few clients, but I hadn't done the certification. To do certification, I had to do mentor coaching and I had to apply for certification and I had to submit a recording. And so I kept putting it off. And I wanted to have that certification. I wanted to have that proof that I wasn't just a fly-by-night coach like, oh yeah, I decided to set this up and I want to give advice. It's not what coaching is, I wanted to say, yes, I stand apart. And so I put this off for over a year. And I finally did it in December of 2017. I finally got that certification. And I was so excited because it was in alignment with who I wanted to be. When we don't do what we say we want to do or should do or need to do, it diminishes our sense of self-efficacy, which is our belief that we can execute behaviors necessary to produce specific performance attainment. What does that mean? Well, in layman speaks, it basically means that we believe that we are going to do what we said we are going to do. And when we say we're going to do something and then we don't do it, it costs us our belief in ourselves. Now, sometimes circumstances get in the way. I'll tell you about a circumstance that got in my way this week in a little bit. But when we consistently do this, when we consistently say, I'm going to do this, and then we don't, it erodes our confidence, because self-efficacy is a building block to confidence. And confidence and self-efficacy are what fuels our belief that we can try something new. And it ultimately allows us to achieve and that belief in ourselves is what fuels our confidence. It empowers us to try something new, and it allows us to finally achieve our life's purpose and our vibrant vision. So that's the first one. It erodes our confidence and who we want to be. The second one is it causes us stress. And stress costs us a lot. And most importantly, it costs us our peace. When I was a sophomore in college, way back, I was a history major before I saw the light. Sorry to all those history majors out there, but people kept asking me, what are you going to do with that? And I'm like, I have no idea. And it was during this class that I'm going to tell you about that I figured this out. It was an early modern Europe history class. And if that sounds fascinating to you, good on you. But I did not enjoy learning about the Renaissance and the Reformation. And I had a paper I had to write for my final grade. And we had chosen topics, and I chose the topic of how the Reformation had changed music. It was interesting to me. But here's the thing. I kept putting it off because it was hard. Finding sources for 1515 and 1518 and how the music was back then is hard work. But ultimately, I got the paper done with an extension from my more than generous professor because one of my sources didn't come in, and that was the only reason. Otherwise, I would have failed. I got an A on the paper by the skin of my teeth, and I hated it. I hated that stressed out feeling. And our lives are stressful enough. Why add more just by procrastinating? And to add on to that, we also might not do our best work when we rush. If you're one of those people who thrives on working under pressure and barely making it in under the deadline, good on you. You do you. But just know that this A might affect your team if you work on a team, but most of us don't. Even if we think we do. For example, you might notice that this podcast came out later in the week than it normally does. That's because I was unintentionally exposed to gluten. I'm allergic to it. And I was really sick on Sunday, which is when I wanted to do my podcast. And I tried rushing through it. And I knew I wasn't doing my best work. I'm like, okay, I'm going to intentionally delay this because I don't want to rush. So it wasn't procrastination. But when we're rushing to hit a deadline, it unfortunately diminishes the quality of the work that we produce. And that's not what I wanted for you. I wanted to produce the best quality work that I could. But when we rush, we sometimes shortchange ourselves and shortchange the people that we serve. And that, in my opinion, is not acceptable for me. So that's the third thing that is a result of stress. Is that we rush and we don't do our best work. The fourth one is that it's wasted time. It's a Chinese proverb that says the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is now. Procrastination costs us precious time. The day that you spend dreading making that phone call, the week you spend angry with a friend who cares. Procrastination costs us precious time. The day that you spend dreading making that phone call, or the week you spend angry with a friend or family member because their careless words hurt you, or the month you spend not making progress on your weight loss goals and actually going backward. Hi, December, talking about you. Or the year you spend putting off your dream of going back to school or starting that business or getting that promotion or writing that book, all in the name of I'm not ready, it's not the right time, I need to watch Netflix. And when I was little, we used to procrastinate. We wouldn't do the dishes or fold the laundry or whatever boring, mundane task that my parents meanly asked us to do. And I remember my dad coming into the living room, and we had procrastinated and we were sitting there watching cartoons, and my dad said, do it right now. And whenever I get ready to procrastinate on something I know I need to be doing, I hear my dad saying, do it right and do it right now. But here's the thing about wasted time. It's really not wasted. If you have regrets, like, oh, you're right, I should have started earlier. I should have started with that tree 20 years ago. Regrets aren't roadblocks, they're road signs. They're the GPS in your car that when you go past your destination, it's like, turn around. At the first opportunity, make a U-turn. And it keeps saying it. It keeps nagging you. That's regret. It's the thing that says something's not right, and we need to make a change. The fifth thing it costs us is wasted energy. I remember Samantha saying, wow, I feel like I could have had this project done with all the energy that I've spent worrying and dreading it. And that worry and that low-level anxiety about, oh, I need to get my taxes done. Hi, anybody else needing to sign their taxes? Is something that could be avoided. Because the thing about our brains is that when we're thinking, and sometimes we procrastinate on little things that become big things, but we'll think, oh, I need to, and then we'll add it to the bottom of our to-do list. Our brain doesn't say, yeah, that's already on the to-do list. It just adds it. So we could have 5 things on our to-do list, but because we keep circling those 5 things around in our heads, they become 50 things because our brain can't say, oh, okay, I've already captured that. And until we capture those to-dos, until we write them down, until we start to do them and take action on them, then they rob us of the precious energy that we have. And I don't know about you, but I am tired. I am tired a lot because I do a lot of things. It's a good tired most of the time, except for when I get gluten. But it's also something that I want to avoid. I have enough energy drains in my life that I don't need to add one more to my own. I'll give you an example. I had a 5-minute task to change my retirement contributions from a traditional to a Roth contribution. It's been on my list for, I would say, over a year. It's kind of embarrassing to share this with you. But I had this task, and the reason I procrastinated is because I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know how to basically access it. I had explored the retirement side, but then it said I needed to contact my agency. And so finally, on Friday, I wrote to someone in HR. I didn't even know she was the right person. I said, hey, could you point me in the right direction? I know this probably isn't your job. She did. The guy she pointed me to a form. I filled out the form. It literally took me 5 minutes to send those emails and log in and fill out the form. And it sat on my list for a year. And every week when I did my review, I scrolled past this task 52 times. And I was like, oh, shoot, yeah, I need to do that. And it never happened. So if you have 5-minute tasks, I would encourage you, schedule like 25 minutes. It doesn't have to be a long time, and see how many of those tasks you can knock out. It will make you feel so much better. So that's number 5, energy. Number 6 is missed opportunities. In economics, quite possibly my least favorite class in college besides accounting. Yeah, sorry, Dr. Rockman. I learned about this thing called opportunity cost. And basically, As Mark Batterson put it in the book Chase the Lion, which I highly recommend, it is the loss of potential gain when opportunity isn't seen and seized. I love that. It is the loss of potential gain when opportunity isn't seen and seized. And if we don't seize opportunities, they are what we miss out on when we put off an action or procrastinate on a decision until that opportunity passes us by. Jesus urges us to count the costs. When he said, "Who among you would build a tower without first counting the cost?" And we're not only supposed to count the cost of what it costs us in time and energy to pursue our vibrant visions, but we're also supposed to count the cost of what it costs us not to. What will it cost you not to do that thing that you want to do? And finally, because of those missed opportunities, procrastination will cost you your dream. It will literally cost you your vibrant vision. If you're listening to this podcast, chances are you're what I call a vibrant visionary, somebody who wants to make your world and the world around you a better place. But if you wait long enough, your dream is going to slowly wilt, kind of like the orchid my mom got me for my birthday in October. It is basically a miracle that this flower is still alive because I kill plants. But if I don't water it and make sure it gets sun and prune it regularly and do the little things that apparently you're supposed to do to keep this plant alive, it is still alive because I've been doing these things, albeit a little bit sporadically. It wilts. And then if it doesn't get the water and the sun and the pruning that it needs, it's going to die. And I like my orchid. It's pretty. And so I want to keep it alive. And maybe you're like that with your dream. I like my dream. It's beautiful. I want it to stay alive. And you've got to water it. You've got to give it some sunshine, let it come out and see the light of day. And you've got to prune it. What pieces are extraneous to your dream? And that's a whole other podcast episode. But if we put off our dreams, if we let them just sit on a shelf and we don't regularly attend to them, we put them off, they will die. So to recap, procrastination costs us our sense of self and our self-confidence. It adds stress to our lives. It decreases our work quality. It wastes our time. It wastes our energy. It costs us our opportunities. And ultimately, it costs us our dream. That was depressing. Thanks, Amanda. Why am I telling you this? Sometimes just knowing what procrastination is costing you will allow you to take action. And action is the opposite of procrastination. If you're waiting until you have clarity, taking action will give you clarity. And if you need help on that, if you're like, wow, I'm really stuck, reach out. I'll drop a link to my calendar in the show notes, and I would invite you to book a call because it's too hard to go through life alone. Sometimes you got to email HR, and sometimes, like I did last week, talk to a coach. If you've enjoyed this episode, I am just asking you to do me one favor. Please just share it with somebody who you know could also benefit. It could be a friend or, a spouse who's procrastinating. No, just kidding. Don't do that. Don't do that. But it could be anybody that just needs that extra dose of encouragement to stay the course. Keep reminding my clients, yep, it's Q2 and 2022 isn't even halfway over. You still got a long way to go and you can make progress. You can stop procrastinating and stop putting off your dreams. Go ahead and pull those dreams out give them some water, put them in the sun, prune them, figure out what's working and what's not working, and then start taking action. I will see you next week when we're going to talk about the real reason that you procrastinate, and it's not because you're lazy or you're a horrible person. All right, I'm just going to spoiler alert, that's not the reason. So if you found this episode kind of depressing, come back. It's going to be fun next week. We're going to learn a lot about ourselves. In the meantime, live your life, live your vibrant vision.